The restaurant was buzzing with life that evening. It wasn't a luxury spot, just a cozy diner tucked into a quiet corner of the city. The kind of place where the clatter of plates and the hum of quiet conversations painted a comforting backdrop for anyone seeking a warm meal. Liam, a young waiter with tired eyes and a forced smile, shuffled between tables, serving dishes with mechanical politeness. The weight of his personal struggles seemed etched into his every step, though he hid it well enough from the patrons. To him, this job was more than work. It was survival. The clock above the counter ticked closer to closing time when the bell above the door chimed softly. Liam didn't even glance up at first, too busy wiping down a table. But the murmurs began almost instantly, soft at first, then growing louder like ripples in a pond. "Is that him?" someone whispered. Another voice followed, more excited. "It's him." It's really him. Curiosity finally pulled Liam's gaze toward the entrance, and his heart nearly stopped. Standing there, casual as if he'd walked into any ordinary diner, was Lionel Messi. Dressed in a simple jacket and jeans, Messi scanned the room with a calm demeanor that was almost unsettling in its normalcy. He didn't seem fazed by the stares or the whispers, though Liam could see a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "Table for one, please," Messi said, his voice soft but firm. For a moment Liam froze, his mind racing. Why here? Why now? What could Messi possibly be doing in this modest diner when there were dozens of high-end restaurants in the city? Liam quickly collected himself and gestured to an empty booth by the window. "Of course, sir. Right this way," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. As Messi settled into the booth, Liam handed him a menu with slightly trembling hands. The football legend thanked him with a polite nod, then began scanning the menu as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. But nothing about this felt ordinary. Not to Liam, not to the other customers, and certainly not to the staff who were all sneaking glances from behind the counter. Minutes later, Liam approached with his notepad. "Ready to order, sir?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. Messi smiled warmly. "Just a burger and fries, and a bottle of water, please." Simple, humble, completely unpretentious. Yet, for reasons Liam couldn't explain, the exchange left him feeling even more nervous. As he walked back to the kitchen to place the order, he couldn't shake the sense that something about this encounter was different, unusual in a way he couldn't yet put into words. From the corner of his eye, Liam noticed Messi pulling out his phone, his fingers tapping away. The faint glow of the screen reflected in his calm expression, but there was an intensity to his focus, almost as if he were planning something. As the food was prepared, Liam tried to keep himself busy, but his mind kept drifting. The bills piling up at home, his mother's worsening medical condition, the late-night shifts that left him drained. It all felt heavier tonight. He was used to swallowing his pride and soldiering on, but standing just a few feet away from someone as accomplished as Messi, he couldn't help but feel the sharp sting of his own struggles. When the meal was ready, Liam carried the tray to Messi's table. "Here you go, sir. Enjoy," he said with a polite smile. Messi nodded in thanks but said nothing more. For the next 20 minutes, Liam kept a respectful distance, glancing over only occasionally. Messi ate quietly, scrolling through his phone now and then. The air felt heavy with anticipation, as if the entire diner were holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. And then it did. When Messi finished his meal, he waved Liam over. Handing him the bill, Messi added a pen and a folded note. "Could you bring this to the counter for me?" he asked, his tone casual but firm. Liam nodded, taking the bill and note with him. But as he turned, something caught his eye. Messi had written something on the back of the receipt. His hands trembled as he unfolded the paper. The moment his eyes scanned the words, Liam felt his chest tighten and a lump rose in his throat. It wasn't the amount on the bill that stunned him, it was the note. The words on that small piece of paper would change everything. Liam's heart pounded as he stared at the note in his hand. The words were simple, yet they carried a weight he couldn't comprehend. You're stronger than you know. Everyone has a story. I believe this is where yours begins. His breath hitched, but before he could fully process the message, his eyes darted to the amount written on the bill. His knees nearly buckled. Messi had left a tip that wasn't just generous, it was life-changing. $10,000. Liam blinked. Sure, he was seeing things. His hands trembled as he looked back toward Messi, but the booth was empty. The football legend had left quietly, slipping out without drawing attention. The diner, still abuzz with hushed whispers, hadn't even noticed him leave. For a moment, Liam stood frozen in place, clutching the bill and the note as if they were lifelines. His mind raced. Was this real? Why would someone like Messi, someone who had everything, care about someone like him? Liam? A voice broke through his thoughts. It was Jenny, the manager, standing behind the counter with a puzzled expression. What's wrong? Are you okay? He stumbled toward her, his words tumbling out in a jumbled rush. Messi, look at this. He thrust the bill and note toward her, his voice cracking. Jenny's eyes widened as she read the note and saw the tip. Oh my God, she whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. Liam, this is incredible. But Liam didn't feel incredible. He felt overwhelmed, confused, and strangely scared. The weight of what just happened pressed down on him, and for reasons he couldn't explain, his chest ached. This wasn't just about the money. The note felt personal, as if Messi had seen something in him that no one else ever had. He leaned against the counter, trying to steady his breathing. The other staff members began to gather, curious about the commotion. Jenny quickly ushered them away, sensing Liam needed a moment. Why would he do this? Liam asked, his voice barely above a whisper. He doesn't even know me. Jenny placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Sometimes people see things in us that we can't see in ourselves, she said softly. Maybe he saw your struggles. Maybe he just wanted to remind you that you're not alone. But Liam wasn't convinced. The message on the note lingered in his mind, haunting him. Everyone has a story. I believe this is where yours begins. What did Messi mean by that? It wasn't just a random act of kindness. It felt intentional, almost deliberate. As the night wore on, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that this moment was bigger than it seemed. He stuffed the note and the money into his pocket, his mind racing with questions. Why here? Why him? Just as the diner began to settle back into its usual rhythm, the bell above the door chimed again. This time it wasn't Messi. It was a man in a sharp suit, his expression serious as his eyes scanned the room. He spotted Liam almost immediately and walked straight toward him. Are you Liam? The man asked, his tone calm but firm. Liam's stomach dropped. Yeah. Why? The man reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small envelope, handing it to Liam without explanation. This is for you, he said simply. Then, with a polite nod, he turned and walked out, leaving Liam standing there in stunned silence. Jenny appeared at his side, her eyes wide with curiosity. What is it? She asked. Liam slowly opened the envelope, his fingers trembling. Inside was a handwritten note, the same neat handwriting as before. Your story isn't over yet. Meet me tomorrow 10 a.m. at the address below. Don't tell anyone. Below the message was an address scribbled in ink. Liam stared at it, his mind spinning. Was this a joke? Was it real? And why did Messi care about him enough to leave another message? Liam, what's going on? Jenny asked, concern lacing her voice. He shook his head, slipping the note back into the envelope. I don't know, he admitted. But I think I have to find out. The next morning, Liam stood outside a sleek, modern building that looked entirely out of place in his world. The address on the note had brought him here, but every part of him screamed that he didn't belong. His jeans were frayed, his shirt wrinkled, and he felt like an imposter just standing on the pristine pavement outside the glass doors. He glanced at his phone. It was 9:58 a.m. 2 minutes until whatever this was would begin. He had barely slept the night before, tossing and turning as questions filled his mind. What could Messi possibly want with him? Was this some elaborate prank? He clutched the note in his pocket like a lifeline, the words replaying in his mind. Your story isn't over yet. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open. The lobby inside was silent except for the faint hum of an air conditioner. A woman in a navy blue suit greeted him from behind a sleek reception desk. Liam, I presume? She said, her smile polite but unreadable. Yes, Liam stammered, his voice barely steady. I was told to come here. The woman nodded as if she'd been expecting him. Without another word, she gestured toward an elevator at the far end of the lobby. Top floor. They're waiting for you. They? Who was they? Liam's heart raced as he stepped into the elevator, his reflection staring back at him in the mirrored walls. He looked out of place like a stray dog wandering into a palace. As the elevator ascended, he rehearsed 100 possible scenarios in his head, each more unlikely than the last. When the doors slid open with a soft chime, Liam stepped into a spacious office with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city. But the view wasn't what caught his attention. It was Messi. Standing by the window, his hands tucked casually into his pockets, he turned to face Liam with a calm, almost warm expression. Good morning, Messi said, his voice as unassuming as it had been the night before. Thanks for coming. Liam stood frozen, his mind struggling to process the scene in front of him. I don't understand, he finally managed to say. Why am I here? What is this? Messi gestured toward a chair. Please, sit. Liam hesitated but eventually complied, his hands gripping the edge of the chair as if it might vanish beneath him. Messi sat across from him, his posture relaxed but his gaze sharp and focused. I imagine you have a lot of questions, Messi began, and I'll answer them. But first I need to ask you something. Liam blinked, confused. Ask me what? Messi leaned forward slightly, his expression serious. Do you believe in second chances, Liam? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Liam's throat tightened as he thought about his life, the dead-end job, the bills piling up, his mother's failing health. Did he believe in second chances? He wasn't sure. I guess so, he said cautiously. Why? Messi's lips curved into a faint smile. Because I've been watching you. Liam's heart skipped a beat. Watching me? What do you mean? Messi leaned back in his chair, his gaze never leaving Liam's. Not in a creepy way, he clarified with a chuckle. I mean, I've been paying attention. You work hard. You take care of your family. You put others before yourself even when you're struggling. Most people don't notice those things. But I do. Liam felt his cheeks flush. Why would you care about someone like me? He asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Messi's smile faded, replaced by a look of quiet intensity. Because I've been where you are, he said softly. Not in the same way, but close enough to understand. And sometimes, all it takes to change everything is for someone to believe in you. The room fell silent as Liam processed Messi's words. He wanted to believe him, but it all felt too surreal. I still don't get it, Liam admitted. Why go through all this trouble? Why not just leave the tip and walk away? Messi's gaze hardened, not with anger, but with conviction. Because leaving money isn't enough, he said. I don't just want to help you pay your bills or get through another week. I want to help you change your life. But that starts with you. Do you want this, Liam? Do you want the chance to rewrite your story? Liam swallowed hard, his mind racing. He thought about his mother, about the endless cycle of working and barely scraping by. He thought about the note Messi had left him, the words that had haunted him all night. Everyone has a story. I don't know if I can, Liam whispered. What if I screw it up? Messi's expression softened. Then you try again, he said simply. The only way you lose is if you stop trying. Liam looked down at his hands, his mind a whirlwind of emotions. He had spent so long just surviving, he wasn't sure if he even knew how to hope anymore. But sitting across from Messi, hearing those words, something inside him stirred. I think I want to try, Liam said finally, his voice shaky but resolute. Messi nodded, a small smile returning to his face. Good, he said, because this is only the beginning. Messi stood up from his chair, his movements slow and deliberate, and walked toward the large window overlooking the city. Liam watched him, unsure of what was coming next, but unable to pull his gaze away. You see all of this? Messi gestured toward the sprawling cityscape below. The lights, the people, the noise. It's easy to get lost in it. Easy to think you're just one tiny piece of something too big to matter. He turned back to Liam, his expression serious again. But that's not true. Every person has the power to make an impact, no matter where they start. Liam shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I get what you're saying, but I don't think someone like me can make much of a difference. I'm just trying to get by. That's where you're wrong, Messi said, his voice steady but firm. You've already made a difference, Liam, you just don't see it yet. Before Liam could respond, Messi walked over to a sleek cabinet on the far wall and opened it. He pulled out a folder and placed it on the table in front of Liam. Take a look, Messi said, stepping back and crossing his arms. Liam hesitated before opening the folder. Inside were photos and documents, snapshots of moments from his life. A picture of him helping an elderly customer carry groceries to her car. Another of him handing a meal to a homeless man outside the diner. A letter he'd written to his landlord, pleading for an extension on rent so he could pay for his mother's medication. How do you have all of this? Liam asked, his voice trembling. Why do you have all of this? Messi crouched down slightly, meeting Liam's eye level. Because I wanted to understand you, he said simply. And what I found is that you've already been doing more than most people ever will. You've been helping others even when you could barely help yourself. That's not weakness, Liam. That's strength. Liam stared at the photos, his throat tight. He had never thought of those moments as significant. To him, they were just small acts, things anyone would do. But seeing them laid out like this, through someone else's eyes, made them feel different. Messi straightened and placed a hand on Liam's shoulder. What you've done with nothing, Messi said, his voice quiet but powerful. Imagine what you could do with something. Liam's mind reeled. The weight of Messi's words hit him like a tidal wave. For so long he had seen himself as small, insignificant, barely holding it together. But here was one of the most successful people in the world telling him he was more than that. What are you saying? Liam finally asked, his voice barely audible. Messi smiled faintly. I'm saying I want to help you, he said. Not just with money, but with opportunity, with a chance to turn all the things you think are weaknesses into strengths. But you have to be willing to take that chance. Liam shook his head, overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start. I've never had anything like this before. Messi's smile widened. That's the beauty of it. You don't have to know everything right now. You just have to take the first step. Before Liam could respond, the door behind him opened. Another man walked in, this one older, with a kind face and a professional demeanor. He carried a tablet under one arm and extended his hand to Liam. Hi, Liam, the man said warmly. My name is Daniel. I'll be helping you with the next phase. Next phase? Liam asked, glancing between Messi and Daniel. Daniel nodded. Yes. Lionel has set up a program for people like you, people with potential who just need a little guidance and support. We're going to help you with everything, job training, financial literacy, whatever you need to get back on your feet and thrive. Liam's mouth fell open. This can't be real, he stammered. Why would anyone do this for me? Messi stepped closer, his gaze steady. Because you deserve it, he said simply. And because sometimes, all it takes is one person believing in you to change everything. The room fell silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. It wasn't heavy or oppressive. It was filled with possibility. Liam swallowed hard, his emotions swirling. For the first time in years, he felt something he had almost forgotten existed. Hope. "All right," he said finally, his voice steady despite the tears welling in his eyes. "I'll do it. I'll take the chance." Messi's smile grew and he extended his hand. Liam shook it, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over him. "Good," Messi said. "Because this isn't just about changing your life, Liam. It's about showing the world what's possible when we lift each other up." The days that followed felt like a whirlwind for Liam. The program Messi had spoken about wasn't just an idea. It was a full-fledged operation, complete with a team of mentors, resources, and a clear plan. Liam found himself in situations he'd never dreamed of, meeting people who genuinely cared about his success and working on skills he didn't even know he had. Daniel became his primary guide, walking him through each step. From helping him draft a budget that didn't feel suffocating to teaching him how to present himself in a professional environment, every moment was purposeful. At first, Liam felt out of place, like an imposter surrounded by polished professionals. But as the weeks passed, he began to see something he had never noticed before. His resilience wasn't just a byproduct of his struggles, it was his greatest asset. Still, the memory of that night at the diner lingered. Messi's words, his conviction, and the sheer weight of his belief in Liam played in his mind like a broken record. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to all of this, that Messi's involvement wasn't just charity, it was something deeper. One evening, after another long day of learning and adapting, Liam was invited to a private dinner. He was told it was just a chance to catch up with Messi, but the formality of the invitation made him nervous. When he arrived at the venue, a modest but elegant restaurant, he was ushered into a private room. Messi was already there, seated at a small table, his expression warm and inviting. "Liam," Messi greeted, standing up to shake his hand. "How's everything going?" Liam sat down, feeling both grateful and slightly uneasy. "It's incredible," he admitted. "I still don't know why you're doing this, though." Messi leaned back in his chair, studying Liam for a moment before speaking. "Do you know what the hardest part of my journey has been?" he asked. Liam frowned, caught off guard by the question. I guess balancing all the expectations, being in the spotlight all the time." Messi chuckled softly. "That's part of it. But the hardest part was remembering where I came from." His voice grew quieter, more reflective. "When you achieve a certain level of success, it's easy to forget what it feels like to struggle, to fight for every inch. And when you forget that, you lose a piece of yourself." Liam listened intently, his own struggles flashing through his mind. "That's why I started this program," Messi continued. "Not just to help people like you, but to remind myself of who I used to be, to stay connected to the part of me that knows what it means to fight." Liam's throat tightened. He hadn't expected such vulnerability from someone like Messi. "So, this isn't just about me," he said slowly. "It's about you, too." Messi smiled. "It's about both of us. About showing the world that no matter how far you've come, you can always reach back and help someone else climb. And Liam," he leaned forward, his eyes locking with Liam's, "you're not just anyone. You've got something special. You just don't see it yet." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Liam wanted to believe them, but a part of him still struggled with the idea that he could be anything more than what life had made him. As if sensing Liam's hesitation, Messi changed the subject. "Tell me," he said, his tone lighter. "What's the first thing you're going to do once you've got everything figured out?" Liam blinked, startled by the question. I don't know," he admitted. "I haven't thought that far ahead." Messi grinned. "Well, think about it. Because the next phase isn't just about learning. It's about doing. and I've got something in mind for you." "What do you mean?" Liam asked, his curiosity piqued. Messi leaned back, his grin widening. "You'll see." Before Liam could press further, the door opened, and Daniel walked in carrying a small box. He placed it on the table in front of Liam and stepped back with a nod. "What's this?" Liam asked, eyeing the box suspiciously. "Open it," Messi said simply. Liam hesitated before lifting the lid. Inside was a sleek black card with his name engraved in gold letters. Beneath it was a small note. "The next step is yours." "What is this?" Liam asked again, his voice shaky. "It's access," Messi explained. "To resources, connections, opportunities. But it's also a reminder. Every time you use it, I want you to think about what you're doing and why. This isn't about taking. It's about giving back." Liam stared at the card, his emotions swirling. He felt overwhelmed, grateful, and terrified all at once. But more than anything, he felt something he hadn't felt in years, a sense of purpose. "Thank you," he said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't know if I can ever repay you." Messi shook his head. "You don't need to repay me. Just promise me one thing." Liam looked up, his eyes meeting Messi's. "Anything. Promise me you'll believe in yourself the way I believe in you." The words stayed with Liam long after the dinner had ended. "Promise me you'll believe in yourself the way I believe in you." They echoed in his mind as he walked home that night, the black card still tucked securely in his pocket. It wasn't just a card. It was a symbol of something bigger, something he was still trying to grasp. Over the next few weeks, the opportunities began to unfold. Daniel introduced him to people who ran organizations, charities, and businesses. Each meeting felt like a test, a challenge to prove that Liam was ready to step into a world that once felt so distant. The card opened doors, but it was up to him to walk through them. One day, Liam found himself sitting in a conference room, staring at a panel of executives who were pitching an idea for a community project. They wanted to create a program to help underprivileged youth gain access to education and mentorship. The idea resonated deeply with Liam, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. As the meeting progressed, he finally spoke up. "This is a great initiative," he began, his voice steady but unsure. "But I think it needs more than just education. It needs to focus on the emotional side too. These kids, they need to believe in themselves before they can even think about succeeding." The room fell silent, all eyes on him. For a moment, Liam regretted speaking up, but then the head of the panel nodded thoughtfully. "Go on," the man said. Encouraged, Liam continued. "I know what it's like to feel stuck, to think there's no way out. And I know how powerful it can be when someone shows you that there is. We need to give these kids more than tools. We need to give them hope." By the time the meeting ended, Liam realized something he hadn't before. He wasn't just there to observe. He was there to contribute, to make a difference. And for the first time, he believed he could. That evening, as he walked back to his apartment, he found a message waiting for him. It was from Messi, simple but direct. "Proud of you. Keep going." Liam smiled, his chest swelling with a mixture of pride and gratitude. He had never had anyone in his corner like this before, and the feeling was both overwhelming and humbling. But life wasn't done throwing challenges his way. The next morning, Liam received a call from Daniel, his voice unusually tense. "Liam, I need you to come to the office right away," Daniel said. "What's going on?" Liam asked, his stomach tightening. "It's Messi," Daniel replied. "Something's happened." Liam barely remembered the journey to the office. His mind raced with possibilities, each one worse than the last. When he arrived, Daniel was waiting for him, his expression grim. "What's going on?" Liam demanded, his voice shaking. Daniel gestured for him to sit down. "Messi's been working on something behind the scenes," he began. "Something big. He's been funding a project to help struggling communities across the country, but not everyone's happy about it." Liam frowned, confused. What do you mean? There's been backlash, Daniel explained. Some people think he's overstepping, trying to do too much. And now, the media's involved. They're spinning it into something it's not. Liam felt a surge of anger. But he's only trying to help. How can anyone twist that into something bad? Daniel sighed. That's the world we live in, Liam. When someone tries to make a difference, there will always be people who try to tear them down. Liam's mind raced. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Messi had done nothing but good, and now he was being attacked for it. But as the anger burned inside him, a new thought began to take shape. Maybe this was his chance to give back, to stand up for the man who had stood up for him. What can I do? Liam asked, his voice firm. Daniel looked at him, surprised. You want to help? Liam nodded. Messi believed in me when no one else did. It's my turn to believe in him. Daniel smiled faintly. All right, he said. Let's get to work. The next few days passed in a blur. Liam found himself thrust into a world of high stakes and relentless media scrutiny. The news was flooded with stories questioning Messi's intentions, painting his philanthropic efforts as overreaching or self-serving. Headlines twisted the truth, turning a beacon of hope into a target of suspicion. Liam had never felt so angry, but he knew that reacting emotionally wouldn't help. He needed to act, calmly, strategically, and with purpose. Daniel worked tirelessly alongside him, connecting Liam with people who could amplify Messi's real story. Social media became their battleground. They reached out to individuals who had benefited from Messi's programs, asking them to share their stories. Slowly but surely, the tide began to shift. Liam crafted a heartfelt post for his own social media account, one he hesitated to share at first. But when he hit publish, it quickly gained traction. A few weeks ago, I was just a waiter trying to make it through another day. I didn't believe in second chances. I didn't believe in myself. Then, Lionel Messi walked into my life and changed everything. He saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. He gave me the tools to turn my life around. Not just money, but hope, guidance, and opportunity. What he's doing isn't for himself. It's for people like me. For all of us who need someone to believe in us. Don't let the headlines fool you. This is the kind of world we should all be fighting for. The post exploded. People from all walks of life shared their own experiences with Messi's initiatives. The narrative began to change. The voices of those who had been helped, factory workers, single parents, struggling students, drowned out the negativity. The story was no longer about what Messi was doing. It was about the lives he had touched. But even as the momentum built, Liam knew they weren't out of the woods yet. The media backlash had brought unwanted attention to Messi, and it was clear he was feeling the pressure. When Liam finally saw him again, it was in a quieter, more subdued setting, a private office, far from the public eye. You didn't have to do all of this, Messi said, his voice calm but tired. I didn't ask you to fight this battle for me. Liam shook his head, his resolve unshaken. You didn't have to believe in me either, he replied. But you did. And now it's my turn to do the same for you. Messi leaned back in his chair, studying Liam for a long moment. You've come a long way, he said finally, a faint smile tugging at his lips. But you know this fight isn't over, right? Liam nodded. I know. And I'm ready. Messi's smile widened, the weariness in his eyes fading just slightly. Good, he said. Because what we're doing, it's bigger than both of us. It's about showing people that no matter how broken the system feels, there's always a way to make it better. Liam felt a surge of pride. For the first time, he didn't feel like an outsider looking in. He felt like a part of something bigger, something meaningful. As they continued to strategize, a knock on the door interrupted them. Daniel stepped in holding a tablet. You'll want to see this, he said, handing it to Messi. On the screen was a video, a montage of testimonials from people all over the world. Each one spoke of how Messi's programs had changed their lives, A single mother who had started her own business, a student who had earned a scholarship, a farmer who had saved his land. The video ended with a simple message. Kindness has no boundaries. Together we can make the world better. Messi's eyes softened as he watched, and for a moment, Liam thought he saw a glimmer of emotion. When the video ended, Messi set the tablet down and looked at Liam. "This is your doing," he said quietly. Liam shook his head. "This is yours. I just reminded people of what they already knew." Messi smiled, and for the first time since the backlash began, he looked at peace. "Then maybe it's time to stop hiding," he said. "Let's show them what we're really about." The next day, Messi held a press conference. He stood before the cameras, not as a football legend or a global icon, but as a man with a mission. He spoke with humility, clarity, and conviction, addressing every question and concern with grace. By the time he finished, the room erupted in applause. Liam watched from the sidelines, his heart swelling with pride. He had been a part of something extraordinary, and it wasn't over yet. As the cameras flashed and the reporters swarmed, Messi caught Liam's eye and gave him a small nod, a silent acknowledgement of everything they had achieved together. As Liam stepped out of the conference hall, the sunlight felt warmer, the world a little brighter. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, he wasn't afraid. He had found his purpose, his place, and his voice. And it all began with a note on a bill.